Welcome back to The Explainer, Fleet Commanders. Today, we're jumping straight into an absolute masterclass on Naval Defense Simulator. If you've been looking for a comprehensive, step-by-step deep dive into every single unique ship hull, their wildly specialized weapon systems, and exactly how the tactical gameplay actually functions on the high seas, well, you are in the perfect place. We're going to break down every single tactic you need to survive. Let's get right into it.
Here is our strategic roadmap for today's breakdown. 1. The Tactical Command Interface. 2. Deploying the Starter Fleet. 3. Advanced Combat Mechanics. 4. Industrial Prestige Hulls. 5. Exotic Xeno Dread Ships. And finally, 6. The Scavenged Orc Fleet.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the Tactical Command Interface.
Right from the jump, you're viewing the battlefield through this incredible retro-futuristic CRT monitor. It's got those glowing phosphorus colors, like matrix green or retro amber, and these subtle horizontal scan lines. But don't let the Cold War-era aesthetic fool you, because underneath that visual filter lies a heavily modern, deeply complex combat simulator. Think about the physical loop of the gameplay for a second. You drag your cursor over an unknown contact, lock onto a target, and this crisp 0.2-second circular ripple mimics an active radar ping across your screen, while the heavy hum of the terminal fills your ears. It's a highly tactile, sensory-rich interface, and it's built to completely ground you in the role of a fleet commander before all hell breaks loose.
Moving right along to Section 2, Deploying the Starter Fleet. This is your grounded naval warfare.
Before you can start bending the laws of physics, you've really got to master these 3 foundational ships. Let's walk through a standard engagement step by step. Picture this. You deploy your lightweight Vanguard Scout Patrol boat to silently screen your far left flank. Now, it's super fragile, sitting at only 80% hull, but it's got a passive hydrophone array that detects incoming torpedoes a full 5 nautical miles earlier than any standard warship. That gives you massive reaction time. But suddenly, your frontline Sentinel utility corvette gets ambushed by guided munitions. Boom! You immediately trigger its rapid deploy smoke screen, and you literally watch the thick chaff cloud slash its thermal and detection footprint in half so it can slip away. And finally, to hold the line, you roll in the heavy Valiant bunker frigate. At 140% hull with reinforced bulkheads granting a flat 10% damage reduction, it's slow, sure, but it perfectly absorbs all that rapid-fire aggro while your lighter ships sweep in and dismantle the enemy. It's like a giant, heavily armed puzzle.
All right, Section 3, Advanced Combat Mechanics, or as I like to call it, the sheer friction of combat.
As you push deeper into the campaign, raw firepower simply isn't going to cut it anymore. You are fighting through modular subsystem attrition. Imagine your propulsion room takes a direct hit from a cruise missile. Immediately, alarms are blaring, your maximum speed is sliced in half, and your prized destroyer is suddenly a sitting duck. You have to frantically reroute power just to keep moving. If your bridge takes a hit, you instantly suffer severe steering latency. The ship turns like a total brick, and your tactical abilities are completely locked out. And if they snipe your sensor arrays, your ship goes totally blind. The radar sweeps empty, forcing you to rely entirely on data link grid sharing from your surviving ships. You see, you aren't just managing health bars here. You are frantically trying to keep a crippled, bleeding machine afloat.
So why should you care about electronic warfare? Because EW isn't just passive defense. It is an active, split-second reaction game that literally dictates life or death. You use active radar jamming preemptively, broadcasting noise to artificially distort the enemy's detection ranges and force them right into your weapon sights. But when they fire back, it becomes a purely reactive game. You have seconds to deploy chaff launchers, creating radar-reflective clouds that instantly sever active enemy missile locks mid-flight. And if you detect high-heat infrared tracking weapons screaming toward your hull, you've got to instantly eject thermal flares to distract their guidance systems. It's a constant, high-stakes game of cat and mouse.
On top of all that, you're fighting the map itself. Sailing your ship into a violent squall-line storm drastically limits your own visibility, sure, but it beautifully cools your ship's infrared thermal footprint down to absolute zero, rendering heat-seeking weapons totally useless. Navigating into rough seas, on the other hand, will severely penalize the speed and accuracy of your lightweight corvettes, while your heavy destroyers just plow right through unaffected. And listen, if you aren't paying attention and accidentally park over a submarine geothermal thermal vent, well, congratulations, your heat signature instantly spikes to maximum, and you've just turned your billion-dollar warship into a giant glowing bullseye for every single missile on the grid.
Escalating things in Section 4, Industrial Prestige Hulls. Say hello to late-game war hulls.
We escalate now from realistic naval warfare to completely paradigm-shifting weapon systems. The Red program focuses heavily on area denial and absolute assault. Take the Hydra, for example. It's an absolute monster of a drone swarm carrier. When you deploy the Hydra, you flood the enemy's radar screen with sheer chaos. We're talking dozens of false positives and micro-munitions that completely overwhelm their defense grids. Countering that is the Black program's terrifying rule breakers, specifically highlighted by the Prometheus. The Prometheus is a nuclear dreadnought carrying a tactical nuke capable of wiping an entire coordinate plot once per sortie. Launching it brings a terrifying game-ending finality to the engagement. It instantly vaporizes whatever poor fleet happens to be trapped in its blast radius.
Then we have the Violet program, which is where things get truly theoretical. Let's slow down and look at the step-by-step tactical supremacy of these prototypes. You can command the Chrono, this ring-shaped hull that glides silently above the water. You fire localized stasis bubbles into enemy formations, literally freezing their weapon reloads and slowing their movement by 80% while your fleet maneuvers in for the kill. You've got the Siphon, a nanite harvester that physically drains the armor plating off enemy hulls just to patch up your own fleet mid-fight. Then there's the Janus. You rush it in as a high-speed cruiser, and with a single command, it physically transforms, locking down into an anchored 350% hull siege bastion right on the front line. And finally, the Singularity, which fires a gravity anchor that permanently tethers massive enemy dreadnoughts to a fixed ocean coordinate, rendering their mobility completely useless. Wild stuff, right?
Section 5. Exotic Xeno Dreadships. The alien threat emerges.
Late in the campaign, those human insurgents are replaced by something far worse. The Voidmaw, the Broodspire, and the Nullsphere completely abandon traditional naval architecture. They're these fluid, obsidian, biomechanical platforms that literally hover just above the ocean surface. And why does this matter so much? Because all the conventional tactics you just spent hours learning are instantly rendered completely useless. They have zero traditional missile tubes. Because they lack mechanical engines, they produce absolutely zero thermal signature. Trying to track them with standard infrared flares or radar jamming is utterly impossible. You are quite literally fighting ghosts.
Which brings us to a terrifying tactical puzzle, the Xenolith class. Attacking this ship with standard ballistic weapons actually makes it deadlier. Seriously, it uses a reactive crystalline core that consumes your kinetic energy, organically growing its own rapid-fire weapon nodules the more you hit it. Its fire rate scales from a base of 30 all the way up to a staggering 110 simply by taking damage. So how do you even defeat it? You absolutely cannot just engage in a standard shootout. You have to lock it down using the Violet program's stasis bubbles or completely blind its organic sensors with electronic warfare before moving in close to apply a single, overwhelming lethal strike so it just cannot adapt in time.
And finally, Section 6, the Scavenged Orc Fleet. Pure brute force momentum. Acting as a jarring contrast to the silent, sleek Xenos is the Orc Wog Fleet. Look at the Crusha, the Dakafist, and the Scarjaw. These are deafening, rusted monstrosities. They are wildly bolted together war hulls made of scavenged scrap metal, held afloat by pure aggressive momentum and, honestly, an unreasonable amount of duct tape. They are visually chaotic, belching black smoke all across the map, and heavily reliant on just throwing endless waves of loud, unapologetic destruction straight at your defensive line.
Fighting Orc commanders like War Boss Goretrak induces pure, step-by-step panic on your bridge. You can just throw tactical subtlety right out the window here. You have to prepare for ships like the Scarjaw, which will continuously vomit endless waves of scavenged bomber drones at your command grid, forcing you into desperate anti-air defense. Or the Dakafist, which utilizes an iron broadside ability. When that hits, your HUD physically shatters with static, and your ship's alarms scream as raw ballistic trauma simply outmaths your armor plating. You have to outmaneuver them before they completely overwhelm your damage control teams.
Section 7, the AI Threat Engine. Now, all these incredibly diverse ships, weapons, and environmental mechanics, they're actually governed by a brilliant automated threat engine. It doesn't just spawn random enemy fleets for you to fight. No, the game dynamically reads the exact weapon loadout you bring to the fight and actively selects a specific subcommander to counter and taunt you. If you load up on hypersonic missiles, Kestrako takes over the comms with rapid response interceptors. If you rely heavily on torpedoes, Selkavas will emerge with specialized sonar screens to counter you. The game is constantly analyzing and adapting to your specific tactical playstyle.
And we can't forget the deep narrative driving this entire war. You aren't just fighting random pixels on a screen. You are commanding the coalition picket line against the grief-stricken Grand Admiral Vorth Kagan. In a wildly tragic twist of fate, the coalition you represent originally caused a massive flood, the Mandeville Barrage, that drowned Kagan's home and his family. Now, known as the Drowned Crown, he leads the Black Fleet to literally drown your forces in revenge. Every single tactical decision you make is steeped in this heavy, desperate lore.
So, the ultimate question is, Commander, can you synthesize all these intricate systems? Can you balance subsystem attrition, manage split-second electronic warfare and a localized squall line, and leverage reality-bending dreadnoughts to outsmart the game's automated threat engine? Or will your fleet simply be outmaneuvered and sink into the abyssal trench? It is an incredibly deep simulator, and it's waiting for your orders.